Yep,
We
yep,
back.
yep.
We back.
What's
We
going on,
back. We
Lydia?
back. Hey,
What's good,
Tanel.
Lydia? How you doing?
Claudia. I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
Listen, this is like week 3 of us going live and bringing all of these amazing speakers to the stage. I'm super hyped to bring the men to the stage, though, right? Because we had the ladies for 2 weeks straight, and that was dope.
Yes,
And, you know,
yes.
I'm all about my ladies, but the black men that are about to hit the stage, I just want y'all to know we want y'all creme de la creme, okay? We want y'all creme
Uh,
de la creme.
Absolutely. Listen, hey, Lydia, 38 more days.
Only
38
38.
more days
That's
for us to
crazy.
do the OSG takeover at Columbia University at our very first and inaugural 2023 OSG Transformational Leadership Conference. Man,
Mm-hmm.
oh man, if you're not excited about this yet, yo, you bugging. First of all, Lydia, I need people to understand if you're listening to us today and you have not got your tickets, it is my hope that you do not think that these things are going to be around much longer. We already
Exactly.
have districts, we have sponsors and everybody buying up these tickets. So please, if you haven't got your ticket already, please go out and get it. Matter of fact, don't get one, don't get two. If you're a school leader, get 10, get 20. Bring your team with you because we most certainly gonna have a great time at this conference. And so, Lydia, how you feeling about it?
I'm excited, and I mean, even more excited to hear about these large groups, as you even mentioned. Like, I feel like people realize that if they're not there, they're going to be real upset, and that's what I want them. I need y'all to get fired up because I want you to know that the things that we have not even begun to announce yet, literally we're bringing you only the best. I'm excited to be in this space. And I also want to encourage folks, like, even if you're not an educator, literally, like I'm a vendor. I'm not a traditional educator, but I need to be there. So I want you to understand that this is a conference that's for everyone. You need to know what's going on around you. You need to network. You need to be in this building because it's going to be something you do not want to miss for sure.
And let's be clear, Lydia. We're not only talking about principals and assistant principals, we're talking about leaders. If you a pastor, if you are, I don't care if you in the police force and you a sergeant, whatever you do, and you consider yourself a leader, pull up to the conference. So please let's not be fooled by the fact that this is OSG and that this is only about principals and assistant principal superintendents. We want you, if you feel that you're a leader and you need to be transformed, that you would show up on this day, on those 2 days in March. So, Lydia, our two guests today, right? The word that comes to mind when I think of our guest for today is legacy, right? And
Mm.
I had to steal a quote from Paul Zungus, and it states, just as we reach back to our ancestors for our fundamental values, so we, as guardians of that legacy, must reach ahead to our children and their children. And when I'm talking about
Mm.
children, we're not only talking about our biological children, we're talking about the young people that come after us. And so I am so excited about today's guest because when I think of them, I think of legacy and their families and what their families have done to put them in these positions. And so I'll let you introduce our guest today, Lydia.
Yeah, I mean, listen, let's get straight into it. So I want to introduce brother Amen Ra to the
Yeah.
stage, right? Coming
Com-
straight from the West
Compton's
Coast.
finest.
Come on, come on.
Exactly.
You already know.
Exactly. And then like Dr. Malik Small, like again,
Woo!
two powerhouses from separate coasts on the stage. I can't wait to hear this conversation. And I'm so excited to even hear about this legacy because there are things about you guys as my brothers that I didn't even know. I had no idea that you both came from this legacy and this trajectory of educational leaders and your family dynamic and the impact that it has even on the work that you do today as men, first and foremost, but then as Black men in this country. You know, we must acknowledge that. So I'm excited for the conversation. I'm going to sit back and listen up,
Uh-huh.
just either like a viewer.
Absolutely. And so fellas, understand what your fathers and what your forefathers have done for you to put you in this place. I want us to again throughout this conversation think about what legacy you're leaving for the young people to come after you all. And so let's start with you, Compton's finest. We'll talk to you, Eamon Raw. Talk to me about this legacy that your father has laid for you as you are now sitting amongst one of the top educators and leaders across this country?
Yeah, no, first and foremost, I just got to give love to the OSG family, Lydia, the whole team, Dennis, Dr. Dennis, Denise, the whole OSG family. Thank you for allowing me to be in community with y'all. For my father, man, my father he's my superhero, him and my mom. But my father specifically, for those who don't know, he's a black nationalist from Alabama, changed his name from Arthur Montgomery to Amin Rahh when he got out of jail, and he changed his name and he became a professor, was one of the youngest professors after he played ball. And he hired the person that invented Kwanzaa. He hired Dr. Maulana Karenga, right? And to this day, Dr. Maulana Karenga and my father are really good friends. But one thing that my father has done, I mean, he has 6 kids. All 6 of us are college educated with master's degrees. 5 out of 6 are in education. And my father always left me with lectures and videotapes on what being conscious mean on a black consciousness and what that means for what I bring to the world. And he always told me, son, change the world, don't let the world change you. He always said, you may not feel that you're at war, but understand that you're in the war. And those things always rang in my head off of how I present in the space, how I am authentic in the space, and how I bring a legacy mindset to those who are around me. My father always told me too that the inheritance, I see somebody put inheritance just isn't monetary. It's the inheritance of consciousness as well, right? And I think we have to always think about not only when we're talking about financial literacy and we're talking about financial wealth, but it's also the wealth of consciousness. And I think that's what is really important when it comes to providing a legacy for those who are around us.
No doubt. That's dope, Rahh. And again, I know you could talk for hours, if not days, weeks, and probably months about your father and the influence that he had on your life. Dr. Malik Small, same thing for you, man. I got a chance to meet your dad and spend a lot of time with your father, man. And I can tell you, I could sit there and listen to him all day. And little did I know is that not only is his legacy started years ago, but the impact he's making now, to see him on social media and to see the following that your dad now has about his consciousness and the things that he shared with this world, I think it's really important that you tell everybody a little bit about your dad and what he's up to these days.
Well, first and foremost, Dennis, I want to thank you for having me. And I want to say what's up to Lydia and to my brother from another mother, Amen Rahh. And you're absolutely right, Dennis. First of all, like Rahh said, our dads are our superheroes. They're our first heroes, and he's still my hero. But I'd be remiss if I didn't say I come from the loins of Professor James Small and Dr. Carol Small, right? Oftentimes, though, we're focusing on dad. My father wouldn't be who he was if not for the mother that and the wife that my mom is. So it's a package deal. When we talk about legacy and when we talk about where I come from. And it even doesn't start with just my father, because we come from a long line of strong men, whether it be my dad or my great-grandfather, Andrew Small, I'm his namesake. And the word Andrew, the name Andrew actually means man. So I want to start with my great-grandfather, who was my father's side of the family is from South Carolina. And so my great-grandfather, Andrew, was the foreman on the plantation that my family worked, right? And so our family in South Carolina comes from a rich tradition of fighters, a rich tradition of Geechee people, a rich tradition of just freedom fighters. They were paid labor. My family was only enslaved for a very short period of time, but because of the land in South Carolina, because they come from those coastal swampy areas, they were able to coalesce with the Native American community, the PD and the Blackfoot, all part of the Chicora Nation, and we're able to fight back and work as free labor even back then. So we come from a long line of fighters, a long line of freedom fighters. My father, Professor James Small, who again is an activist, not was an activist, is an activist, and has helped to change and the trajectory of so many lives of Black people across not just this country, but the world. He's responsible in part with his compadres and comrades for creating open admissions in City College, for creating the Black Studies Department, the first Black Studies Department in City College with Professor Leonard Jeffries and a whole host of other greats. And he's been in the fight and the struggle for self-determination and for humanism for our people across this globe for the last 40, 50, 60 years. And so I come from that stock, and he continues to do the work, and he's paved the way for me to now work beside him and to take that baton and continue this work, because we know that there's still so much work to do. And again, it's our responsibility, because of that gene pool that we come from, it's our responsibility to continue and to carry on this legacy of fight, this legacy of ensuring that we leave this place, leave this world a better place than we met it, particularly for the people who are our people, and particularly for all of those people that happen to be in our charge, because we know if we make a better world for our people, it's going to be a better world for all people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I appreciate Dr. Small. Appreciate that. So, Lydia, you know how we do. You know, we normally warm them up like that, and then we just turn them loose on everybody. And so, fellas, 38 days.
They already loose.
38 days, fellas. 38 days before this conference. Talk to us. I'm gonna go right back to Amon Rahh. 38 more days before we take over Columbia University in the very first ever Columbia University SPA OSG collaboration for our first Transformational Leadership Conference. Rahh, what does it feel like to know that you will not only walk the hollow halls of Columbia University, but you will speak and you will present unlike any other time that you've ever presented before? What you feeling like, bro?
No, it feels amazing, man. I think it's a testament to the entire OSG movement to think about, you know, the first annual Transformative Leadership Conference taking place at one of the most prestigious universities in our country, and the amount of doctors that's going to be in the building, the amount of revolutionary educators that's going to be in the building, the amount of energy that's going to be in the building, man. It feels, goodness, man, it's second to none when it comes to the amount of people coming together collectively to really transform education, but also have a good time. You know, when we talk about how we can transform education, I don't think you can look anywhere else but a premier organization like OSG. I mean, you see the audience with Dr. Riley. You see my brother from another, Dr. Malik Small, and everything that he's doing, from Principal Mills to Jamila, to so many. If I didn't say a name, but so many. Every presenter brings a level of legacy and a level of brilliance. And for me, I'm humbled. I'm excited to just be part of it. I was honored to be asked. I'm honored to be there. I'm excited to bring forth what I feel is something that can revolutionize education. I'm excited to be there to network. I'm excited to be there with just my good family. It's gonna feel like a big, you know, like that first family reunion. You're like, man, you want to see it.
Reunion.
You just don't want to miss it.
Wow. Well, hey, Dr. Small,
Listen,
your turn, brother.
I don't think, you know, you were clear about what you were doing when you created OSG. I know what your intentions were, but very quickly after you put your intentions in the universe, God took over and recognized that you and this organization needed to be used as a vehicle. You and us are at the right place at the right time. Education will be the defining and pivotal conversation. It is the one thing that will define the next 20 to 30 years in terms of this country and its wrestling with what leadership looks like for this country, what education and who has a right to it looks like to this country. So again, OSG is at the right place at the right time, because the work that we are doing, the stage that you've created, is a stage where we can create a situation where the revolution will be televised. And I mean that in a real way, a revolution of the mind, a revolution of the school business, a revolution of the education business, a revolution of what it means to be an educator, what it means to be a leader, and what that looks like as the school being the centerpiece of each of the communities that we serve. And so we are at the forefront, and we're going to let the world know that we are at the forefront of rewriting the blueprint for what education looks like in this country, particularly what education looks like for all of those people who have been so disenfranchised and whose stories have been ripped from the pages of history. We'll be there at Columbia University on the 17th and the 18th to let the world know that we are here to rewrite the history books, rewrite the narrative, and show the world what great educators look like and what true leadership looks like in our communities.
Say that,
Sir.
Dr. Small. Say that. Say that. Say that.
What? Like, and I want to piggyback this, because although Dr. Small, you were not a part of the conversations that we had previously, you know, I keep stressing to Dennis, like, I don't think that there are the words to describe the level of equity and access, like in real time, like what this is like. I don't think we fully can conceptualize what we're about to do. And you said it so well. You said Dennis literally set his intention and God took over the rest. And I think even with this conference, the exact same thing is happening, because this is something that has never been done before and was not even designed for us to do. Yet we do it anyway, because at this point, you know, we yield. We're not in control. We just gonna be the salt. We just gonna, you know, dabble in the little sazon, little salt on the earth, do what we do, and leave the rest. Wow. Okay, let's get into these sessions, right? So I understand that, Rahh, you come into the stage on the financial literacy front, and your session is all about K-12 crypto, where education meets Web3. Tell us a little more about that. What could we expect? What does that mean? So if I'm an educator and I have no idea, I hear about cryptocurrency and I know a little bit, and I understand that our students are, and I want to meet them with that, but I have no idea what I'm getting myself into. What do we need to know, and how has this impacted how you transform not only your school as a principal, but across the country, how you're transforming schools? Like, tell us a little more about that.
Yeah, no, Lydia, I appreciate the question. I think the charge for leaders is for us to understand the impact of our financial and especially our educational system when it comes to finance. It's important for us to know the numbers and follow the money and understand how that impacts our kids. Like, let's be clear, like 70% of schools across the country are Title I schools. And if we know Title I schools, we know that we're servicing EL students, foster youth, low income, right? But what does that mean? If we understand like the finances of the wealth gap in our country, we have to understand that over 60% of Black wealth is tied up in student loan debt, right? What does that mean for us, right? We must know what our session is going to bring is how we unpack the macro levels of our financial system and how we reverse engineer that back to the youth. So our session is really going to be talking about what is the future of work and the future of learning when it comes to not only cryptocurrency, but when it comes to what is known as Web3 and the future of technology. Lydia, everybody in here, everybody has been seeing what ChatGPT, what AI, what technology is doing to every single industry. Every single industry. There's a lot of jobs being wiped out. So if you're here as a leader, you're not being prepared for the future of work when it comes to technology, I'm letting you know you're not preparing our kids to have the life that they should be able to have when it comes to thriving in our country, right? So if you're not preparing them for the work that it takes for being a prompt engineer, we're understanding how AI is taking over and how to use AI and how to leverage it as a tool, that's what we're going to be talking about. If you don't understand right now that most of us pay for things with our phone more than we use cash right now. If we don't understand the implications of that in our industry, how can you say you are preparing kids for the future of work? If we don't understand that now there's a history when it comes to the internet, there's a history. Ladies and gentlemen, let's just be clear. Lydia, I want to just unpack this. When the internet started in 1983, the consumer internet, it was the first .com. That was known as Web 1. If you remember when you had to plug up the DSL and go, that was Web 1 when companies made money off of us just going onto the internet and purchasing things. But then in 2000, 2001, social media, these big companies started to realize and say, we don't need to make the content anymore. Let's get the consumer to make the content. That's why you see platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Yelp. They don't make content. We fill the content. And they make money off of us filling the content. And that was known as Web 2, the attention economy. That's why you see all the kids are like trying to build an audience, because if we grab their attention like YouTube, they monetize it now. Web 3, is known as the creator economy. That means that more jobs are decreasing and more creators are starting to create and monetize it. So what does that mean? That means like you see all the on social media, you see influencers and content creators make money and create, and they are monetizing off of every app. Every app in the future will allow people who creators to monetize it. What does that mean for us as educators? That means that we must understand what the creator economy is, what the history of the internet is, and how blockchain and how AI comes together with that. So my session is going to unpack the macro elements of our financial industry and how we can now start getting prepared with technological tools and understanding the finances so we can best prepare our young people to be at the forefront of the world that's being built. I will believe this. It's really important. Ladies and gentlemen, with all the technology that we use, we're on technology right now. There is something that's called the coded bias. The coded bias is because it's the lack of conscious developers that are coding their bias in the app. They're coding their bias in the app. What does this mean for our young people in the future? Ladies and gentlemen, the world that our kids are living in, if you're an elementary principal, think about 10 years from now. If you're not being at the forefront of this, you're not preparing them for the 21st century. You're not preparing them to be successful. You're not preparing them to be at the forefront of the new industry and the new work. So I'm going to leave it right here.
Listen,
what we're doing is really important. Again, I go back to the 60% of Black wealth is tied up in student loan debt crisis. What we are doing is incentivizing learning using these AI tools and using blockchain to allow kids to be able to explore and earn actual money, cryptocurrency, and other digital assets based off of their exploration in school. What does this mean? This means that they have the ability to fund their future based off of the courses and the integration that they can have with their learning and their exploration. So we're going to learn how you can actually change the trajectory of the wealth gap as an educator from kinder all the way to 12. So they can have the ability to not have the amount of student loan debt crisis, to not have the amount of barriers that they have to overcome. Let's be real, Lydia. Our educational system right now is based off of we go to school from kindergarten to 12, we learn, and then for most of us coming from communities like mine, we got to borrow money just to get access to the prestigious colleges so we can get the network and then hopefully get a job to pay back the loan that we borrowed in the first place. And
hey, Rahh, stop giving him so much, Rahh. Don't give him too much, man. Come on, man. Let them pay for a ticket there. Let them register for something, Rahh. Don't give them all of it, Rahh. Please don't give it all.
But Rahh, now I gotta kind of pick up where he left off with this student loan crisis, because again, if you're paying attention to what's going on in the economy now and over the next 10 years, we know that the student loan crisis will be the next great financial crisis that this country will face. And it's a financial crisis that was built on the backs of racism, because when public institutions, public colleges and universities were free at one point, they were free or very low cost when their populations looked very differently. When they serviced our white brothers and sisters predominantly, the tuition was damn near free. It wasn't until we started flooding these universities and banging down the door looking for education that they came up with this plan and say, you know what, we need to charge. And you know what, we're going to charge them, and we're going to at the same time disenfranchise them through the implementation of student loans and having them borrowing money and having to pay back when their counterparts who had received the education for free didn't have to deal with that same thing. So again, we continue to talk about, Rob mentioned poverty, he mentioned economics, etc. But all of these things are byproducts of racism. So again, when I think about education, particularly public education in its inception, and when we think about public education and we pair that with standardized testing, all of those things were again designed to keep people of color, to keep Black people disenfranchised and marginalized. So when I think about my presentation, Relax, Relate, Restore, exploring the intersection between race, social justice, and restorative practices, relax is the first part of it, because what I'm saying is relax. Our children are not the problem. What you've been told about them, what you see on TV about them, what you hear in the poisonous music that gets pumped out on the airwaves paints a picture that says that our children are not worthy, that our children can't compete, that our children can't do well in school, that our children can't be the change that this world needs. So the first part of my presentation deals with weaponized implicit bias and how that impacts educators in schools and then impacts children and creates trajectories of failure, trajectories that put our children and pipe them from the schools directly into the prison based on those standardized test scores. And then I'm going to talk about relate, right? Because we know that the key to creating children that can perform is first looking at them holistically and ensuring that you're giving them education that's culturally responsive and sustaining, so that they can see themselves and see themselves in places and spaces of success rather than places and spaces of hurt and places and spaces of failure. And then I'm going to talk about restore, because once we relax and recognize that our children are beautiful and that they're kind and that they're intelligent, and then we create spaces of learning that are relevant for them, then we have to ensure at the same time that we are restoring their well-being, their mental well-being, their spiritual well-being, their social well-being, and restoring those things in them that will have them go out into the world and be great and not continuing to be marginalized and continue to not have the opportunity or capacity to self-determine. And so these are some of the things that I'll be speaking about in my presentation through the lens of what does that look like for school leaders, because it's school leaders that stand at the gateway of the failure or the success of the students and the families and the communities that they serve.
Ooh-wee. Ooh-hoo-hoo. First of all, I got one request. If y'all are watching this right now, and somebody is questioning if they should purchase a ticket, they should make the investment, I need you to share this link with them right now. Just hit the share button right now, and just, because the conference already started. Like, literally, the conference just started right now. I mean, what? The conference has begun, okay? We moved the date. The conference starts today. Like,
wow.
Man, I'm blown away, Dennis. I mean,
you know what?
What do we do with that? Like, how do we go from here?
We go back to what we talked about early by way of legacy. You know what I'm saying? Go back to what we talked about legacy. Just as we reach back to our ancestors for our fundamental values, so we as guardians of that legacy. These two brothers are guardians of that legacy. You know, it's important that we now understand we got to now reach ahead for our children and for the young people that come after us, the school leaders that come behind us. It's important that people understand is that what we're doing on March 17th and 18th is not solely about what's happening now. It's primarily about what's going to happen in the future. And so what you're going to hear is true revolutionary conversations. What you're going to hear is true conversations around restorative justice and social justice and restorative practices that Dr. Small is going to talk about. I just think, Lydia, what's so exciting about this is that we get to see and hear this all the time from these brothers right here. Yeah. We get to hear it, and you know what? It never gets old. It never gets tired. But for those who have not gotten the opportunity to be in the presence of these two gentlemen right now, please don't play yourself. Please don't play yourself and think that you could miss this and be able to catch it on a replay. Because most certainly, if you missed it, you missed it. And so, Lydia, I mean, I'm so excited, even more so. Every time we do this, I get more excited about it. And I think Dr. Small said it, you said it, I know Rahh has said it to me. I don't even understand the impact of what's getting ready to happen. I truly don't. And I thank God that, you know, I can legitimately say that this one right here is a game changer, not only for New York City, but for the globe at this point. Because once this happens, there's no turning back. We're going to start to take this thing on the road. It's no reason why we're not going to be over on the West Coast doing this. It's no reason why we're not going to be down south or up north or in Tanzania and other places throughout this country and throughout the world. And so I'm really excited, Lydia. I really am. And these two dudes right here, these are truly my brothers. These are people that are doing some amazing work. And I can't wait for everybody else to experience what we as an OSG family get to experience with them just by a simple phone call or a text.
Indeed, and you know what we say here at OSG, right? We've been closing it out this way every week, and it's the truth. Often imitated, never what?
Never duplicated. Never
it's a
duplicated.
Different breed in here. Never. It's a different breed, man.
So, and listen, Lydia, let's not let them go yet. Let's give them another 60 seconds apiece.
Okay.
Come on, fellas. Yo, if y'all listen, because remember, the thing about this conference is that people have choices wherever they want to go. Why they need to come see you, Rahh? Why they need to come see you, Dr. Small? Starting with you, Rahh, 60 seconds or less. Why everybody needs to register for your presentation?
Listen, because if you don't register for my session, it's really because a world is being built, and if we don't fight now, if we don't fight right now to build and be part of the world that's being built, we're gonna be fighting the same battles. Our kids are gonna be fighting the same battles 10 years from now, 15 years now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now. And if you're somebody that understands that all the fight that we're doing with the inequities, those inequities still going to exist if we do not understand what's happening in the coded bias, what's happening in tech, what's happening in our financial industry. Let's be clear. We have to have two things working with us. One is we have to have protective knowledge. Everybody, protective knowledge. Protective knowledge means that you are the guardian at the gates of your mind. That means you protect what comes in and you protect what goes out. Number two is you have to have something that's called sacred knowledge. Sacred knowledge is understanding the real principles, those Nguzo Saba principles that I know my brother Malik talks about when it comes to understanding the reality that exists in our country and how we can actually rebuild a future that is thriving for our young people. So if you want to know how to build a revolutionary future, then you want to come to our session. You want to come to my session.
Say less.
Yeah, come on, Dr. Small, bring us home.
Listen, if you don't know, now you know. OSG is in the house. Number one, again, education is at the center of everything that's important right now. The world is changing. These are the best of times as well as the worst of times. But the one thing that we can be certain of, and for sure, for our people and for those people that are on the side of righteousness and justice and equality and equity, there's no time like the present. There's no time like right now. We are on the precipice of a world that is changing and that will change more rapidly in the next 5 years than it did in the last 500. So if you want to be a part of that change, be at the conference. If you want to be in the know, be at the conference. If you're not too sure about it and you ain't got much going on and you don't want to impact the world and you're just happy with the way everything is, grab your remote, stay home and do what you do. But for those of you who are looking to be a part of history, we will be making history March 17th and 18th. Be there or be square. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Lydia. Thank you, Rahh.
Listen here.
What are you going to do, Lydia? What are you going to do?
Yo, we out. We gave him too much. We out.
Yeah, we out, y'all.
We out.
We out, y'all.
Next week.
All right, y'all. Much love.
All right, much love, y'all.